Chapter 3 The Death of Eve. Part 3 of the Legends of the Jews, Volume 1. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. The Legends of the Jews, Volume 1 by Rabbi Louis Ginzberg. The Fall of the Angels. The depravity of mankind, which began to show itself in the time of Enosh, had increased monstrously in the time of his grandson Jared, by reason of the fallen angels. When the angels saw the beautiful, attractive daughters of men, they lusted after them and spoke, quote, "We will choose wives for ourselves only from among the daughters of men, and beget children with them." End quote. Their chief Shemhazi said, quote, "I fear me. Ye will not put this plan of yours into execution, and I alone shall have to suffer the consequences of a great sin." End quote. Then they answered him and said, quote, "We will all swear an oath, and we will bind ourselves separately and together, not to abandon the plan, but to carry it through to the end." End quote. 200 angels descended to the summit of Mount Hermon, which owes its name to the very occurrence, because they bound themselves there to fulfill their purpose. On the penalty of herem, anathema, under the leadership of 20 captains, they defiled themselves with the daughters of men, unto whom they taught charms, conjuring formulas, how to cut roots, and the efficacy of plants. The issue from these mixed marriages was a race of giants, 3,000 ells tall, who consumed the possessions of men. When all had vanished, and they could obtain nothing more from them, the giants turned against them and devoured many of them. And the remnant of men began to trespass against the birds, beasts, reptiles, and fishes, eating their flesh and drinking their blood. Then the earth complained about the impious evildoers, but the fallen angels continued to corrupt mankind. Azazel taught men how to make slaughtering knives, arms, shields, and coats of mail. He showed them metals and how to work them, and armlets, and all sorts of trinkets, and the use of rouge for the eyes, and how to beautify the eyelids, and how to ornament themselves with the rarest and most precious jewels, and all sorts of paints. The chief of the fallen angels, Shemhazi, instructed them in exorcisms and how to cut roots. Armoros taught them how to raise spells. Barakel, divination from the stars. Kokabel, astrology. Ezekiel, augury from the clouds. Erikael, the signs of the earth. Samsawiel, the signs of the sun. Sariel, the signs of the moon. While all these abominations defiled the earth, the pious Enoch lived in a secret place. None among men knew his abode, or what had become of him, for he was sojourning with the angel watchers and holy ones. Once he heard the call addressed to him, quote, Enoch, thou scribe of justice, go unto the watchers of the heavens, who have left the high heavens, the eternal place of holiness, defiling themselves with women, doing as men do, taking wives unto themselves, and casting themselves into the arms of destruction upon the earth. Go and proclaim unto them that they shall find neither peace nor pardon. For every time they take joy in their offspring, they shall see the violent death of their sons, and sigh over the ruin of their children. They will pray and supplicate evermore, but never shall they attain to mercy or peace. End quote. Enoch repaired to Azazel and the other fallen angels, to announce the doom uttered against them. They all were filled with fear. Trembling seized upon them, and they implored Enoch to set up a petition for them and read it to the Lord of heaven. For they could not speak with God as aforetime, nor even raise their eyes heavenward, for shame on account of their sins. Enoch granted their request, and in a vision he was vouchsafed the answer, which he was to carry back to the angels. It appeared to Enoch that he was wafted into heaven upon clouds, and was set down before the throne of God. God spake, quote, Go forth and say to the watchers of heaven, who have sent thee hither to intercede for them, verily it is you who ought to plead in behalf of men, not men in behalf of you. Why did ye forsake the high, holy and eternal heavens to pollute yourselves with the daughters of men, taking wives unto yourselves, doing like the races of the earth, and begetting giant sons? Giants begotten by flesh and spirits will be called evil spirits on earth, and on earth will be their dwelling place. Evil spirits proceed from their bodies because they are created from above, and from the holy watchers is their beginning and primal origin. They will be evil spirits on earth, and evil spirits they will be named. And the spirits of heaven, having their dwelling in heaven, but the spirits of earth, which were born upon the earth, have their dwelling on the earth. And the spirits of the giants will devour, oppress, destroy, attack, do battle, and cause destruction on earth, and work affliction. They will take no kind of food, nor will they thirst, and they will be invisible. And these spirits will rise up against the children of men and against the women, because they have proceeded from them. Since the days of murder and destruction and the death of the giants, when the spirits went forth from the soul of their flesh, in order to destroy without incurring judgment. These will they destroy until the day when the great consumption of the great world be consummated. And now, as to the watchers who have sent thee to intercede for them, who had been aforetime in heaven, say to them, You have been in heaven, and though the hidden things had not yet been revealed to you, you know worthless mysteries. And in the hardness of your hearts you have recounted these to women. And through these mysteries women and men work much evil on earth. Say to them, therefore, you have no peace. Enoch, ruler and teacher. After Enoch had lived a long time, secluded from men, he once heard the voice of an angel calling to him, Enoch, Enoch, make thyself ready, and leave the house, and the secret place wherein thou hast kept thyself hidden, and assume dominion over men, to teach them the ways in which they shall walk, and the deeds which they shall do, in order that they may walk in the ways of God. Enoch left his retreat and betook himself to the haunts of men. He gathered them about him, and instructed them in the conduct pleasing to God. He sent messengers all over to announce, Ye who desire to know the ways of God and righteous conduct, come ye to Enoch. Thereupon a vast concourse of people thronged about him, to hear the wisdom he would teach and learn from his mouth what is good and right. Even kings and princes, no less than 130 in number, assembled about him, and submitted themselves to his dominion, to be taught and guided by him, as he taught and guided all the others. Peace reigned thus over the whole world all the 243 years during which the influence of Enoch prevailed. At the expiration of this period, in the year in which Adam died, and was buried with great honors by Seth, Enosh, Enoch, and Methuselah, Enoch resolved to retire again from intercourse with men, and devote himself wholly to the service of God. But he withdrew gradually. First he would spend 3 days in prayer and praise of God, and on the 4th day he would return to his disciples and grant them instruction. Many years passed thus. Then he appeared among them but once a week, later once a month, and finally once a year. The kings, princes, and all others who were desirous of seeing Enoch and hearkening to his words did not venture to come close to him during the times of his retirement. Such awful majesty sat upon his countenance, they feared for their very life if they but looked at him. They therefore resolved that all men should proffer their requests before Enoch on the day he showed himself unto them. The impression made by the teachings of Enoch upon all who heard them was powerful. They prostrated themselves before him, and cried, Long live the king! Long live the king! On a certain day, while Enoch was giving audience to his followers, an angel appeared and made known unto him that God had resolved to install him as king over the angels in heaven, as until then he had reigned over men. He called together all the inhabitants of the earth, and addressed them thus, I have been summoned to ascend into heaven, and I know not on what day I shall go thither. Therefore I will teach you wisdom and righteousness before I go hence. A few days yet Enoch spent among men, and all the time left to him he gave instruction in wisdom, knowledge, God-fearing conduct, and piety, and established law and order. for the regulation of the affairs of men. Then those gathered near him saw a gigantic steed descend from the skies, and they told Enoch of it, who said, quote, "The steed is for me, for the time has come and the day when I leave you, never to be seen again." End quote. So it was. The steed approached Enoch, and he mounted upon its back, all the time instructing the people, exhorting them, enjoining them to serve God and walk in His ways. 800,000 of the people followed a day's journey after him, but on the second day Enoch urged his retinue to turn back. Quote, "Go ye home, lest death overtake you, if you follow me farther." End quote. Most of them heeded his words and went back, but a number remained with him for 6 days, though he admonished them daily to return and not bring death down upon themselves. On the 6th day of the journey, he said to those still accompanying him, quote, "Go home ye, for on the morrow I shall ascend to heaven, and whoever will then be near me, he will die." End quote. Nevertheless, some of his companions remained with him, saying, quote, "Whithersoever thou goest, we will go. By the living God, death alone shall part us." End quote. On the 7th day, Enoch was carried into the heavens in a fiery chariot drawn by fiery chargers. The day thereafter, the kings who had turned back in good time sent messengers to inquire into the fate of the men who had refused to separate themselves from Enoch, for they had noted the number of them. They found snow and great hailstones upon the spot whence Enoch had risen, and when they searched beneath, they discovered the bodies of all who had remained behind with Enoch. He alone was not among them. He was on high in heaven. End of chapter 3, part 3. Recording by Robert Scott, August the 9th, 2007.